All right. Well, welcome everyone to the session. This is about Canvas changes coming spring and summer of 2021. And those changes are the new rich content editor and the new quizzes that are coming down. Um, they're coming down the line, and they're also going to be replacing the old rich content editor and old quizzes, and they'll be phasing. Canvas will be has an end date for each of these, and I'll just as we go down, and also be demonstrating how each of these work and how you can access them before the end date that Canvas has set up. So let's start with the rich content editor. If there we go. So the old rich content editor is going to go away on January 16 of 2021. And I'll show you as we get going how you can try that out now from within your own Canvas sites. The new rich content editor is a more condensed format, and they've also added a more intuitive toolbar that's grouped by the common icons and tools and interactions that are available in the old rich content editor. Now, this new rich content editor is going to be available in pretty much every location in Canvas that the old rich content editor is available. So announcements, assignments, discussions, pages, syllabus. The only area that it's not going to be available, and there's a different content editor, is in new quizzes. So and it's only slightly different, and I'm not sure why they did this, but I'm sure it has something to do with the way that the new quizzes was developed and the coding that was involved. So that's the only area within quizzes is where you won't be able to find the new rich content editor. And in terms of the new quizzes, it'll be the only quizzing option starting on July 17 of 2021. They've added functionality in this as well. They've also added ease of use, and it's more, I would say, more pleasing to the eye, and I believe more user friendly than the old quizzes. It's just going to take a little bit of time if you're using the old quizzes now for you to have your muscle memory get adjusted. But I think it's slicker and it's easier to use. So I think you'll like the changes that they've made, including the improved access and usage of the question banks. If you're familiar with the current question banks, they're a little bit wonky, to say the least. With the new quizzes, they're easier to access, they're easier to create, they're easier to share, and so I think that will be something that will be the biggest benefit with the new quizzes, as well as the ability to duplicate quizzes. Right now, the ability to duplicate isn't available in old quizzes, and so with the new quizzes, you can go in and duplicate quickly, as well as share with other users, a feature that is currently unavailable. So let's go ahead. Let me stop the presentation here. Let's go ahead and let me do the Zoom shuffle. It is now part of every presentation I give. Move those around. And I'm going to go into my test course, and I'm going to show you first with the new rich content editor, show you how you can turn this on. And I'll revisit this at the end of the session just as a reminder. But down here in the settings of a course, and I'm sure most of you are familiar with the course details tab, the tab to access this is under feature options. And you'll see here that there's one called RCE enhancements. And so if you go over and switch that to on, all of your rich content editor experience will now be with the new rich content editor. You also see new quizzes is here, and you can turn that on and off as well. Now, as I mentioned in the PowerPoint presentation, January 16, this will go away because the new rich content editor will be the only option available after that date. So, but before then, you can turn that on. And also, you can turn this on and off. So if you want to turn this feature option for the rich content editor on, you can turn it on to play around and to get familiar with it. And then you can turn it off if you would like to go back to the old rich content editor for whatever reason, or if you are having trouble figuring out something with the new rich content editor, you can always turn this off and revert back to the old model. So with that turned on, let me switch over, and I have a page created here called New Rich Content Editor. And I'll show you what the new Rich Content Editor looks like. So if I click on my Edit button, we'll see here's the new Rich Content Editor. You'll see that they have added at the top these menu options while also retaining the formatting and linking options down here along the bottom row. You'll also notice as you play around with the new rich content editor that there is a lot of redundancy built in. So a number of these options that are here in front are also nested within these menu options here in the upper row. So if we start with edit, you'll see that there's an undo. It also gives you the shortcuts. So undo being Command Z, it's Control Z on Windows, and I'm sure that it's going to recognize whether or not you're on a Windows or an Apple machine. You also have your cut, copy, paste, and select all. Then under view, you also have a full screen mode, which is nice for those times. And I'm sure as you've used the old rich content editor, you get that little box in which to work in. With the new full screen, it definitely gives you a lot more real estate, especially if you're using a laptop to work and to manipulate the page. Let me bring that back down. So moving over to insert, here's where we can find our link options for external links and course links. External links now allows you to add in the text. So you could say, watch this video, and then post the link in, and then it'll insert that directly into the page. This is a new feature of the new rich content editor, is the ability to add the text and the link simultaneously. This is also where you can access course links. So as you may have noticed in the past with the old rich content editor, the course links options were over here on the right hand side. Now they're available here under insert and course links. And here you'll find the pages, assignments, quizzes, all of those options on down the line. And then if you click under links, you can switch to files, and that will access your files area for those links. You also have the option to upload images, and it gives you the three options available in terms of where to find those images. So either from within the course, or images that you've uploaded to your personal account, as well as the ability to upload an image. You can do the same with media. You can do the same with documents. So you can upload a document to your files, or you can access them through course documents or from your own personal files within your account. And I accidentally tapped on that. And then you have here the ability to add in equations, tables, and then to embed content with the embed code. Now, formatting, you'll see you have all of your formatting options available, as well as more robust format options. You also have blocking, and a new feature of the new rich content, or a feature of the new rich content editor, is the ability to change fonts. In the past, in order to change fonts, you had to go in and change the HTML code. Now you're given a list of different fonts that you can choose from. You also have options in terms of font sizes. Before, you had to do all this through headers, 1, 2, 3, or paragraph. You now can change font sizes. Remaining are the ability to align and for directionality. And you also see now, in addition to the new rich content editor is the ability to change text color and background color. And then you have your clear formatting options down here at the bottom. Tools gives you the option to add in a word count. And then for apps, this is the external tools and the learning technology integrations that we have associated with Canvas. So you'll see we have Dropbox and Google Apps and H5P. You'll find Studio here, Vimeo, YouTube. These are the integrations that we have, and that's where under Select App, that's where you will find these options. Now, as I mentioned, there is redundancy built into this. So for all of the options nested in these menu areas, you'll find those here facing us. So we change our font size to change from paragraph to different heading sizes. And then our bolding, italics, underline, colors, links. So under the link now, you'll see that it is external and course links all in one. Images, media, documents, and then here's our quick link to Google Apps Studio is now a quick link. Before, if you recall, it's nested within that V icon in the old rich content editor. Here it is its own standalone link. And then here's the apps, alignments. You'll see that there are options available for bullet points, as well as here for directionality, clearing format, tables, equations, and another option for your embed code. I will mention if you are or have used any HTML editing in the old rich content editor, you can find that in two locations in the new rich content editor. One is down in the bottom left-hand corner with this bracket icon. So that is how you change from the HTML mode to edit mode. You can turn that on and off. You can also find that under View and Raw HTML editor there. And that is it with the new rich content editor. It is it's taken me a while to get used to this because the old rich content editor has been available since I started using Canvas 8 years ago. So it takes a little bit of time because your muscles get into that that memory and that way of doing things. So the biggest one that's the biggest change that's taken me the longest to get used to is here under links and finding the course links and having to turn that on as opposed to having them available always there on the right hand side. But the ability to go full screen and have all of that real estate, I think, makes it worth all of the having to think about every step that I make in trying to get used to this new format. So I will open it up for questions about the new rich content editor. That was a little quick, but the new quizzes will take up some time. So anybody have any questions about the new rich content editor?
I have a comment, if that's okay, Dave.
Yeah.
So anecdotally, I teach in the community college system, and they had their new rich content editor turned on this semester. So I had to adjust to it like without training, and kind of unexpectedly while I was teaching online for them this semester. And I promise if I can do it, anyone can do it because I'm not as tech savvy as everyone else on my team. But honestly, now that I'm used to it, I like it so much better than the old content editor. My favorite features, I really like the way you can link in the course. It's more intuitive, I think. And the opportunity to work in full screen has been really, really nice. Well, especially when working on course pages. I really like that.
Yep.
So share.
Good. I'm glad you're enjoying it. I am too. I think it's there are a lot of good
enjoying as much as an editor on a web-based platform you can, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I would encourage you with what Bernard said, and with you with college education. We've had Canvas now for almost 3 years and using it full time for over 2 years. So I would, that's enough time for you to get used to something for sure. So I would encourage you to take some time and play around with it, even if you do it half the time or just want to rip the Band-Aid off and just make the switch now. Like I said, you can, and Sean, you can go in and turn that on now and see what you think. I will say, if you decide not to use the full screen option, the way to increase the space in the past was to click and drag the edit window here. You can still do that, but it's down here in the bottom right hand corner. You can do the same thing over the 6 dots area, and then you get the same functionalities you had in the old rich content editor over there. It's right next to the full screen option.
Thank you for all the tips and the things you like, Bernadette. It's helpful to hear and helpful that we're not just being thrown into it. I'm wondering about, we've been embedding videos in making courses. So I'm wondering, we use the HTML for when we have multiple videos and text per page, but I'm wondering if we can, when we just have one video to show, like from YouTube or an external source, can we just use that link now with the text and for YouTube, and it'll be fully responsive?
Yeah, well, so I'd say you have 3 options here. You can go with the external links and put your YouTube. If it's YouTube, you can put that here. But if you have it hosted somewhere else, you could also in turn use that link here. Now, if it's a YouTube video specifically, you can go in to tools and apps and then bring in a YouTube video this way. But the difference would be if you did the link option, it's the link. If you use the app option, it embeds a preview window of the YouTube video. And then the third option is over here on the far right is the cloud embed code. So if you wanted to add, instead of, if you had a non-YouTube video file hosted somewhere and wanted to put that video preview, you could use that embed code option to paste that in here, and it would give that preview. And I can show you.
Great. Do you have a recommended way? I think when you use the app, it only has the tiny video.
Yeah.
So the other 2 methods sound preferable.
YouTube is always fun because it shows that I have a 3-year-old. Hold on, I'm just going to use this one.
Yeah.
So if I hit share here.
Yeah, you can grab the code.
Grab the code here. And then you can paste that in. And so it gives you this in the page. Now it's fine for one video, but as you start to get more, you definitely would want to use the HTML editor to help lay this out, or a table to help lay this out a little better. But I think the embed option is nice because then they can see that preview, that preview window of the video and what it is. And for one video, I think and you can work the text around it to make it look nice.
Okay. And then content that we've already, and courses that we've already created isn't going to be affected. It's just making things from now on, or the 11th. Okay.
Nope, it won't go away. And in fact, once the January 16 hits, that content stays, and the only thing that's different is this.
Okay.
All the editing functions. So that's, good question.
Awesome. Okay, thanks, Dave.
Yep. Now for new quizzes, that content, I need to get some clarification from Canvas. I don't think that content goes away, but you'll have to migrate it to the new quizzes format in order to make edits. So I'll show you how to do that. It's not difficult at all. So let's use that as a transition into the new quizzes, and let me make sure that I had that turned on.
Okay, so for courses that go live February 1st, we need to be aware that if we don't have this turned on now, you would need to migrate everything. So we should just turn it on now?
No, so for quizzes, that's not until July, middle of July.
Oh, okay.
You have time on that. You have the whole rest of this semester
Okay.
with
Good
the
to
old
know.
quizzes. So for some faculty that were converting courses from, they maybe hadn't taught in a number of years, in meeting with them, I was showing them new quizzes as something that was coming down the line, and said, hey, this is something that's coming down the line. Redoing this now may take a look. And I'd say the majority of the faculty that I worked with in that regard just went with new quizzes just to get in the habit. But it is super easy. So I have two different quizzes here. One is formatted in the old style, and then here's a new quiz. And so for all of those old quizzes that you have when you go into a course, say you migrate the content over and you want to make the switch to new quizzes starting the spring semester of 2021, what you can do is go in to the quizzes area that were created in the old quiz format, and over here under your ellipses there will be an option called migrate, and as soon as you click migrate, Canvas automatically starts to migrate that into the new quizzes format. And then you'll see that, and you may want to go in and make an edit that says, while you're working on it, that says new quizzes. So that process is super easy to do the migration. And so it's something you could start to work on, since we've already gone through fall 20, for those courses that you're teaching in fall of 21, you can go in and start to make that migration either now or over the summer. So that process is easy. Now let me show you what the new quizzes actually look like. And I'll give you a little overview of the new quizzes. So you see it looks much different. It's very different from the old quizzes, but it's also very similar to the old quizzes in that the types of questions remains largely the same. The ability to add in all of the information and all of the options in terms of settings remain largely the same, but the layout and accessing the new quizzes is the biggest difference between old and new. And so this is one that I created just to show you what that looks like and some of the differences that take a little bit of getting used to. One of the biggest is that up here in the upper left, Canvas has put all of the options up here in these 4 menu areas. So build, obviously being where you build your questions and build the quiz. Settings, very similar to old quizzes in that regard, where you had the tabs between the settings and the quiz questions. They just added two more tools to the toolbar here, and so you have those same options in terms of shuffling questions, shuffling answers, the one question at a time. All of these options are currently available in old quizzes. It's just in a new layout and in a new format of the toolbar. We have reports available. Most of this functionality is tied to outcomes and whether or not you have outcomes set up and mastery paths set up. I'm working on getting more information on this, and will likely be posting and having another session just on reports and outcomes in the future. And then the fourth option is moderate. This was something that was a little hidden in old quizzes, and in that it was over on the right hand side, but also included information such as the log and the ability to moderate. All of these little nuance options were the parts that were hidden. And so now under this new tool in the toolbar of moderate, you get a better snapshot of attempts and score and the time it took. You also have easier access to the log, and then also accommodations are much easier to access. And so if I click on moderate, you'll see now I can go in and quickly access the reopen option. I can give additional attempts, and then I can also give additional time or remove the time limit if need be very quickly. So if I needed to give accommodation for time, I could go in and then add the time that's additional for them. And you'll see that's reflected here, time, and then plus 1 hour. Currently don't have a time limit on this quiz, so it's not reflecting that that there is a time, but it's showing that it's here what that accommodation. One thing I will mention here about view log is something that I'm not sure a ton of instructors are familiar with from the old quizzes, is the log. And the log shows information about the student when they started a quiz, the browser they were using, and the operating system. And then it gives information about how long into the quiz it took them to answer a question. And we used the log, and why this is important is we used the log, I believe in the spring of 20 to identify cheating, because we were able to match 4 students that had answered. You could see a wave, and so they answered all at the same time, at the same elapsed time, but also in the same order. So there were the 4 students had all answered, say, question 2 at the same time marker, and then they all answered question 10, went back to question 3, and there was a clear pattern that involved. So we were able to show that, and then the department was able to investigate further. But that the log here was important in sort of establishing whether or not there may have been cheating. So, and it's more easily accessible here in the new quizzes. Okay, so those are the four options here in the toolbar, and you also have the you can expand and draw that back there. You have here's your title, here's your instructions. This is what you'd call a snapshot of the exam or the quiz. So it says, you have a title, you have instructions, and then you have a multiple choice, and then you have this option here. If we had more questions here, we could reorder this quiz just from this snapshot view, as opposed to the bigger build view. And I usually keep that minimized just to make this to make this bigger. So let me show you how this works in building new quizzes. One thing you'll have to get used to, and this is the part that's taken me the longest, is I'm always looking to get back into my course, and it's up here in the upper right with return. So you have to click on return to get back into your course. So let me add a new quiz, and now if you have the new quizzes feature turned on from now until the middle of July, you'll get the option to choose which quiz engine you want to use: Classic, which is the old, and then the new. And then if you want everything to go with the new, you can tell Canvas to remember the choice. So let me create a new quiz. And the first window that pops up are all of the options in terms of the name. So we can call this one exam 2, how many points we want to associate, where we want it to go, how we want to display the grade. It's locked in with external tool, so this part won't change. Canvas has created the new quizzes as an external tool, so this part you can't change. Again, with a recent release of a couple months ago, you can now change attempts from unlimited to limited. So if you only want to give them one chance to take this, you change that. And this part has stayed the same in terms of who who gets the assignment and on what dates. So let me give this one a due date of tomorrow. And then I'm going to click save and publish. And then Canvas will auto launch me into the edit window here. I can paste in and add my instructions. So there's our instructions. And then we can start to add in our questions. And so you see that for the most part, our question options have stayed the same. So we have file upload and matching and multiple choice, essay, all of these options have come over from the old quizzes. A couple of new question options are categorization, hotspots. This is more likely to be important in surveys. And then we also have this option called stimulus. And so what stimulus allows you to do is to say where you have kinesiology is an example I use because I know they do this frequently. They have a chart of a muscle group. And so what you can do is add a image of that muscle group, put some instructions with that image, and then align questions that all relate back to that image. So you could have the image would maybe have markers of individual muscles. And so the question could be, based on this image, identify the muscles in this group, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then you'd have questions 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then the students they would see that image associated with for each of those questions. So it's a way for you to add content, media or otherwise, into the stimulus, and then align questions that refer back to that stimulus. So that is a new feature that they've added within the new quizzes. You also have the option to up here in the upper right hand corner. These are the banks, and I think they're going with the pig for piggy bank. And so you can now create banks and align on the fly, as opposed to the old quizzes where you had to create the banks ahead of time and then align. Now you can create on the fly. And I'll show you a different option with the banks in terms of aligning a specific question back to a bank after the fact. So let me go in and make a multiple choice question. And we can say what. And just like in the old quizzes, you go in, and you also notice that the rich content editor is available for formatting of these questions from the get-go. Let me change this. Looks like green, blue, red, purple. You go in and continue adding additional answers here. If you choose, you can go in and select the correct answer. And then you have the ability to add feedback for each of the answers on the right-hand side there with the dialog box. And you would click done when you're ready. If you're doing math calculations, you can show an on-screen calculator now. You also have the ability to vary points by answer. So if one answer is more correct than another, you can say that this one is worth 1, while this one is worth 2 or 3. And you can also shuffle the choices. And then if you want to send this question to a bank, you can go into item banking, add to bank, and it's not engaging where it was engaging before. Let me see why that's not working. Might have had something to do with the points. Well, now I got to figure that out. So I will go back to do the bank demonstration. I'll go back to my previously created exam, and we'll show you then and see why that's not why that's not working. So as I mentioned, you have the ability to add feedback per choice, per response. Down here in the bottom, you can also find the ability to add feedback for correct answers, incorrect answers, and then general feedback in that manner. And then when you are ready to move on to the next question, you click on the plus sign. If any of you have used Qualtrics, this the launch of the new quizzes is a little it brings it in line a little more with something like Qualtrics. So it modernizes the building process. And let me choose fill in the blank as my next option. Seems like something's locked up here. Let me refresh my page. Let me click. Can you still hear me?
Yep.
Did I lock
hear
up?
you.
Okay, good. I was just wondering if my internet had locked up because Canvas is acting funky. Let me just refresh the page. Something locked up there. Let me do a true false. And that's true. Now let me try the banking part. No. Let's try adding in another question.
Is it, Dave, is it because you have that error message, question stem cannot?
Oh, yeah, you're right. You are right. Sorry. Jeez. This is question 1. Thanks, Christian.
Ah,
You get used to. There we go. So that's where your question name, your question title goes, and then the stem is where the. So then if I go ahead now, I can add in a. I wasn't seeing the question title piece. That used to be over on the left-hand side. So now you can do your fill in the blank. Trying to think of. Oops. The content editor. And now if I go into the bank. Oops. Did it not work? You must. Oh, wait. You see it's a little finicky there. Oh, that's the error message that pops up within the box. And now I bet you if I go back here to edit this question. Oops, I'm going to cancel this one. Which is not cancel. I'm just going to delete this question. I bet you now I can go in and add this one to the bank. Add to a bank. So I can either create a new bank or add it to an existing item. And I have a bank already created, so I can click exam 1. Now, one thing to keep in mind is if you add a question from an exam to either a new or an existing bank, once you click on add, you'll see that you get a message that says some options and point values can only be changed, here, but then all the editing of the question has to take place in the bank. So you can have you can move the question to the bank, and then for each individual exam that you're using it for, drawing from that bank, you can change the point value and the shuffling of the answers and all the things that pertain to that quiz. But any of the editing of the overall quiz, such as the any of the wording or any of the question feedback, anything like that, has to come from within the bank. So I can cancel on that.
Dave, can you share question banks with other instructors?
You can now.
Okay.
So as well as share the new quizzes. So here within the new quizzes, I'll show you that first. If you go here on the right hand side, you'll now see the option to duplicate, which wasn't there before. In the past, you had to import the content from the course back into the course to duplicate. Now you can just duplicate it. You can also send it to people
Mm.
From within our organization. And then you also have the ability to copy it to your other classes. So any courses that you are an instructor or a TA in, you can send that to them. Now, in terms of the question banks, now this is going to be new since I created that new bank. And I wonder if it didn't like me creating that new bank. Give me 1 second here. Oops. I cancel that. Let me edit this one. Hide in banking, add to bank. Edit in bank. There we go. Now that I'm in the new banks, and this is one part I need to talk with Canvas about, is how, because we can turn on the new quizzes, but I want to discuss with them how to access the new banks without having to go through this whole process. I'm sure that once the new quizzes become the only option, that this will be more readily available from within that banks menu. But for right now, you have to go into the quiz and then access the banks through this roundabout way. But to get back to your question, Christian, you see here there's a share option for this bank. If I click on that, now I can, so if I wanted to share it with Ashley, and then I can click add, and then that bank she'll have access to that.
Okay.
To that bank. So I think banks is a big change, and a change for the better, because in the past like I said, the banks were wonky. So you had to you basically would create your questions in the banks and then align it to your quizzes, which is the opposite from what most folks were doing. They were creating their quizzes and then wanted to put them in a bank after, as they were working through, because it was hard to think about creating the questions in the banks for some folks, and they just wanted to get the quizzes made, and then add them to banks to get them organized. So now you have the ability to do that process in that manner. So create your quiz, getting it ready for the students, and then once things have settled down, take that quiz information and then put it in the bank for organization and for later access. And so that process is much better. I'm going to get clarification from Canvas on the access issue, and we'll post out something about that in the near future.
Can I ask you
Yeah,
one?
go ahead. I was going to say I'm wrapping up on my part and opening it up for questions.
Oh, I just have a question on the stimulus one type of question. So sometimes in our research class, we use like charts and tables, and then we have people pick out things like we ask, what is the, I don't know, we ask specific questions. So we can, instead of uploading that chart multiple times for each question, we can just upload it one time and then have the question refer to that one chart. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Even make sense? Okay.
Yep. So here's how it looks. And so in Canvas, so you add the stimulus with the title, the instructions, put in your content. You can add it to a bank, and then you start to attach questions to it.
Okay.
So here's the stimulus here about the Declaration of Independence. and then you can go in and attach question.
Mm.
And then so you'll see here, this is the stimulus, this is the question.
Mhm.
And you
Okay,
see the stimulus does not appear in student assessments. And the stimulus and the question will appear side by side
great.
in the assessment. Now, one thing before I'm officially done, let me show you what this looks like from the student's perspective. It's a little different for them. And I created this one quiz. So now when they go in, they'll see the quiz/exam name, instructions, time limit, due date, and then the begin option. And say they answer, you can also pin to go back. And then they click submit, and they now get a warning, say that they're not going to be able to go back. And if they are, they ready? Auto grades, unless you have it muted. And then gives them their time, points, and then any feedback that you've provided them automatically. Also, they have to click return to get back into the course. Otherwise, it's not like they're locked in. They could always go back in through their dashboard or through their courses and get back into the course. But it's easier just to click on that return. It's just a little bit hidden there. So it looks a little different from their end. Before they got this big preview window. Now they just get the instructions. It's a little slicker. All right, any other questions? Again, new rich content editor is January 16, and the quizzes, and that January 16 is when it the old rich content editor goes away completely, and then new quizzes is July 17. And as I mentioned, you can start to migrate your old quizzes to new quizzes. And if you remember, you saw that the old quiz stays. It basically copies the old quiz and gives you a version for the new quizzes. So you have both options there. All right. Any questions, Sarah? I don't know. Are you all using quizzes quite a bit, or?
We're using all of it.
Yeah.
Not really complex ones, but it's helpful to know about the updates and the new options.
Yeah.
No
and
questions.
Okay, good. Well, I think I'm going to be doing these more often. Canvas keeps having new features. They don't all come in this, or these are two big changes coming up, so they don't always do this in this grand a fashion, but there are always little micro changes. I think I'm going to start making little 5-minute videos with that information.
Super helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Jerry, you good?
Dave, I'm good so far. Yep, thank you.
All right. Well, that's it for me. I'm gonna, I'll bundle all this once I get the recording, and I'll bundle this with some information in terms of handouts. And if y'all ever need anything, just let me know. I'm happy to help you test out anything as you start to get more comfortable.
All right.
Good, Dave.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Dave.
Yeah, you got it. Y'all have a good one.
Have a good one.
You
Thank
too.
all.